wonderful day for the devotees, and deities are looking so beautiful today, and everybody has a great opportunity to enjoy this on our very nice online technology, and thank you so much for the devotees who are putting that together and helping us all enjoy it remotely. It's also the 10th anniversary of the deity installation of Lord Balaram. I guess it was actually Memorial Day, wasn't it? But at any rate, this is because of the pandemic, we weren't able to do anything. We weren't able to celebrate the 10th anniversary, so of course this is the appropriate time to do it now during Balaram's appearance. So this is Balaram's 10th appearance day here at New Ramanreti. So we should begin, of course, with who is Lord Balaram. Well, of course, we know who Lord Balaram is, but who Lord Balaram can also be a little bit technical, understanding his spiritual identity and position. Or it can be very simple. When the disciples asked Srila Prabhupada, what is the difference between Krishna and Balaram? He said, Krishna is black and Balaram is white. Now, that seems to be a very simple, almost a humorous answer, but it's actually a very profound spiritual truth and completely confirmed by our scriptures, including Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 5, verses 4 and 5. I'll just read through today since we theoretically don't have people in the temple room. Sarva Avatari Krishna Swayam Bhagavan Tamohara Devicha Deha Shri Balaram. And in text 5, Eka Isu Rupa Donhe Bhina Matrakoya Adyakoya Vyuha Krishna Lila Rasabhoy. I'll read both together. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the fountainhead of all incarnations. Lord Balaram is his second body. These two are one and the same identity. They differ only in form. Lord Balaram is the first bodily expansion of Krishna, and he assists in Lord Krishna's transcendental pastimes. Report. Lord Prabhupada. Lord Sri Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead, is the primeval Lord, the original form of Godhead, and his first expansion is Sri Balaram. The personality of Godhead can expand himself in innumerable forms. The forms that have unlimited potency are called spamsa, and forms that have limited potency, the living entities, are called divinamsha. Balaram is a spamsha expansion of the Lord, and therefore there is no difference in potency between Krishna and Balaram. The only difference is their bodily structure. As the first expansion of Godhead, Balaram is the chief deity among the first quadruple forms, and he is the foremost assistant of Sri Krishna in his transcendental activities. Now, how Balaram assists Krishna is explained in the next few verses. The original Lord Krishna appeared in all the Deities Lord Chaitanya, and Balaram appeared with him as Lord Nityananda. May Sri Nityananda Ram be the object of my constant remembrance. Sankishan, Seshanag, and Vishnu still lie in the Karna ocean, Garbadak ocean, and ocean of milk are his plenary portions and portions of his plenary portions. Lord Balaram is the original Sankishan. He assumes 5 other forms to serve the Lord, which we'll come back to. He himself helps in the pastimes of Lord Krishna, and he does the work of creation in 4 other forms. He executes the order of Lord Krishna and the work of creation in the form of Lord Shesha. He serves Krishna in various ways. In all the forms, he tastes transcendental bliss of serving Krishna. That same Balaram is Lord Nityananda, the companion of Lord Gaurasunda. So I was thinking we are actually very fortunate. We have 4 deities of Lord Balaram here on our altar. We have, of course, Balaram and Krishna Balaram, both large and small deities, and we also have Lord Nityananda in the large and small Nityananda form. So Nityananda being none different than Balaram. So we're very well representative, and we have so much mercy that we can gain today from Lord Balaram here in Ramanreti. So the identity of Lord Balaram is that he is non-different from Krishna in potencies. Yet, he does have a different personality with different features. This is of course, the Chintabheda Kappa, the simultaneously oneness and difference. One of the aspects of that philosophy is that Krishna can have multiple forms. They are all the same in potency, all equal to him, and at the same time, they have slightly different forms or different personalities even, different activities that they exhibit. And this is all for Krishna's pleasure. So Balaram is the first expansion of Krishna. In other words, there's no one really before Balaram. comes Krishna, then Balaram comes from Krishna. And then it's explained that he further expands as four: Mahasankrishan, Harnadakshay Vishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, Shirdakshay Vishnu, and all of those serve in the process of creation of material universes. There's also a lot of complicated, two different quadruple expansions of Vasudeva, Aniruddha, Arjuna, like that. But we're not going to get into that too much. The main idea is that one of the ways that Balaram serves is by expanding as the Purusha incarnations. And through these Vishnu expansions, the whole material worlds are created. Then the second way that he assists and serves Lord Krishna is through his Sesha feature, or Anantasesha. And it's described that all varieties of personal service to Krishna are rendered by Shesha. Now later, Srila Prabhupada wrote to answer a question about this from a devotee. And Prabhupada said, in answer to your question, let me say that Lord Vishnu is served by Shesha, who is also an incarnation of Vishnu. His business is to supply all bodily comforts to Lord Vishnu. Shesha, or Ananta, serves Vishnu as his mattress and protects him from all atmospheric disturbances by making his heads like a canopy of umbrella, the hoods of Sheshananda. In this way, he supplies umbrella, bedding, slippers, everything else personally required by Lord Vishnu. This information we get from scriptural sources. So all the different paraphernalia, the canopy, the shoes, everything that's on the altar is actually an expansion of Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram expands into all these different, seemingly material paraphernalias. They're not. They're actually the spiritual energy of Balaram that's come to assist Lord Krishna in his pastimes. Well, of course, this may all seem very abstract to us, how Balaram is explained in so many ways as a Purusha incarnation, and how it expands with Shesha and Anantashesha. But for the devotees, we can appreciate Lord Balaram in ways that are much more direct, much more personal, much more, I don't want to say more meaningful, but maybe to someone maybe with limited intelligence, more meaningful. Two extremely important qualities of Lord Balaram. First, he's the reservoir of all spiritual strength. Bala means strength. Spiritual strength is coming from him. Also, of course, Rama means pleasure, spiritual pleasure. And he is the original guru. He's called Adi Guru. He is the original spiritual master, the original instructor of all living entities. Srila Prabhupada explained this principle a little bit during a lecture on Lord Nityananda's appearance. This is February 1977. Similarly, real strength is spiritual strength. That spiritual strength is Balaram. Bala means strength. Therefore, we have to take shelter of the lotus feet of Balaram, Guru Tattva. Balaram means Guru Tattva. Balaram represents Guru, Yasha Prashada, Bhagavat Prashada. If we want to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if we want to understand Krishna, then we must take shelter of Balaram. Bala Nihena Labhya. This Vedic injunction means, without the mercy of Balaram, you cannot understand. You cannot realize your spiritual identity. So that Balaram comes as Nityananda Prabhu, Balaram Hoila Nitai. Therefore, we must take shelter of Balaram. If we take shelter of Balaram or Nityananda Prabhu, then we get peace. So if we want actual peace of mind, if we actually want to be free from this material fatigue, then we must take shelter of Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu is the strength, spiritual strength, and without that we cannot approach Krishna. That source of spiritual strength is Balaram, Krishna's next manifestation, Prakash Vigraha, Krishna manifesting himself through Balaram. Also in a purport, Srimad Bhagavatam 7:15-45, Prabhupada also emphasized this point. Balaram gives one strength. Balaram is Nityananda. Thus one should accept the sword of knowledge from Krishna and be strong with the mercy of Balaram. We're therefore worshipping Krishna Balaram in Vrindavan. And in a Rath Yatra address, Srila Prabhupada was explaining the deities of Jagannath, Balaram, and Subhadra. Came to Balaram, he said, Bala means strength, and Ram means enjoyment. So Balaram means he who gives spiritual strength for enjoying eternal blissful life. He is Balaram. So, Balaram is, of course, a very, very incredible personality, a wonderful personality that the devotees take shelter of. We worship Krishna Balaram to get spiritual strength. Balaram will help us to overcome the obstacles of our life in this material world, help us to battle with Maya. We can pray to Balaram for spiritual strength, that we became strong in this. Prabhupada says it's like a battle with Maya sometimes. Maya can be very strong, and we need to be equally as strong. So, of course, we take shelter of the holy name, we take shelter of Guru, we take shelter in so many ways. Particularly, we can also take shelter of Lord Balaram to gain that strength that we need to become Krishna conscious, to overcome the illusion of this material world, and to always be able to execute our service, execute our sadhana, and in so many ways make advancement in spiritual life. So we're very fortunate, since we've had Krishna Balaram here for 10 years in our temple. I think everyone has experienced higher levels of strength, mercy, higher levels of knowledge. So we've all increased so much our devotion with Krishna Balaram being here. It seems like, of course we had the empty space on the third altar, and it's like it all became complete when Krishna Balaram came here. And of course, we also have the same deities as in Vrindavan, which can't be a bad thing. That's very auspicious, that we have, we have the perfect set of deities here in Gaura-Nitai, Radhashama Sundar and Krishna Balaram. And I think that the entire temple and community has felt increased devotion since they've come here. And there's an added bonus. And we only say this in Alachua, but everyone in Alachua knows that we have the most beautiful Balaram in existence on this planet. Isn't that's a fact, isn't it? That's not even subjective, right? So, in fact, I remember when Balaram first came, when we first saw Balaram, so many devotees, we were just amazed, right, by his beauty. It was just so amazing. You always wonder, these new deities, what they're going to be like. I mean, our material vision, a little bit, one who's very pure can see Krishna everywhere and anything, and whoever one worships becomes one's most beautiful deity. But immediately, everyone was attracted to Balaram, to Krishna Balaram here. So beautiful. So I wanted to talk a few minutes about how the installation and how Krishna Balaram came here. I think it's fitting on this, since we are celebrating a 10th anniversary, and we weren't able to do that in May, to talk a little bit about that. Of course, Radhasham was installed, and the temple was built about 10 years earlier, wasn't it? Almost 10 years? Yeah. Exactly, I think. So 10 years before, with the new temple building and Radhashama Sundar coming here and gracing us with their beautiful presence, it was some years when the altar was empty. And I'm sure that others had similar inspirations, but foremost, I think it was the inspiration of Vijayananda Prabhu that had probably the most to do with Krishna Balaram coming here. I know that he was very inspired, and he organized the carving of the deities. I think he had arranged with Sitala to get the deities made. I think that I don't know if he paid entirely, but he sponsored himself, I think, quite a bit of the money for them. And so it's also a nice time to remember Vijayananda, who's experiencing great challenges, health challenges in his life right now. And I think it's something we can always remember, this wonderful, incredible service that he did for this community and helped bring Krishna Balaram here. But even when Krishna Balaram were here, physically, it took some years for them to manifest themselves on the altar. I think they were here about 4 years, and nobody really felt, what can we do? Or is it possible? Do we have a facility? How's this going to happen? I wanted to read from an article. This was written 10 years ago by Ranjit Prabhu. I found this almost by accident when I was kind of researching a little bit for this class, and he wrote this whole sort of description of how everything came together. And I've edited a little bit because it was quite long, but this is what Ranjit wrote. Sri Krishna, Balaram, in their deity form, have been waiting for 4 years to appear on the altar of New Raman Reddy. The Bajaris are eager to worship them, but the facilities are too meager. The kitchen is too small, the Bajari room is too small, the altar is too small for the bathing, and other puja has to be done. The deity department's been sewing outfits for Krishna Balaram, and some outfits already been retired without the deities wearing them. Despite the problems, in early 2009, a group of devotees got together with the management to make a plan to install the deities. It wasn't quite that simple, but actually it's quite interesting because actually Mukti and I think she was fairly recently the temple president then. We wanted to have a strategic planning meeting because we wanted to plan on, where are we going with our community? What do we need to do? What's our next project? We were ready for a new project. And Mukti and I had some ideas. We had a list, I remember, of what we were going to present as some good projects the temple could get behind. So we invited about 20 devotees, many senior devotees in the community to this meeting, all-day meeting, and they weren't so interested in some of our ideas. But somebody said, we have Krishna Balaram sitting there. I think Kirti Raj was one who was saying this. Why don't we get them installed? And everyone said, yes, let's do that. Now, Mukhi is an amazing person and leader. She sort of did 180 degrees, said, okay, let's do it, without even arguing, And I said, sure, let's do it. So, in other words, and then, of course, Mukhi became the project manager, as we all knew. Took on every aspect of the construction and everything that was needed to bring the deities here. And so many devotees helped in so many ways. It was really an amazing community get together because we started out thinking we needed to raise $200,000 to build the kitchen and everything else. Well, it turned out to be quite a bit more. It seemed at the very first assembly, first Sunday, $50,000 was pledged. So we thought this is going to be easy. Well, then what happens? Ranjit goes on. They approached the county authorities to Excuse me. They approached the county authorities to acquire the necessary permissions from the various departments. Health, water authorities, building inspectors, fire safety, county planning, and so the costs began to mount up. A retention barrier, a new well, a new septic field, monthly inspections of water supplies, many other requirements added cost and anxiety. And you think that India's bureaucracy can be overwhelming? Try Alachua County. And it's absolutely right. It was just amazing. They just layered on one thing on top of another, which made the work increase, the expenses increase, etc. By November 2009, the initial euphoria had worn off, and management was starting to have some real anxiety. Only $95,000 collected, less than half that was needed just for the kitchen. Further construction expenses for the Pajari facilities would mean the installation had to be delayed. The project seemed to be slipping away. But I remember that moment of anxiety. Sri Krishna Balaram had waited long enough. See, Krishna has his own ideas. At a Sunday feast program, one devotee came forward. He contacted a donor who gave a donation of up to $50,000 if the community will match the donation within 1 week. This is announced to assembled devotees. Now that was sounding, and then 20 minutes later, Krishna arranges a miracle. A supporter of New Raman Reddy community living in Wisconsin, who follows the morning program online on his computer, see how important this is, this internet presence, happens to be visiting at the same time and inspired by the temple and the devotees, and this anonymous donor, he immediately tells Mukhyadasi, the temple president, he will also donate up to $50,000 matching. So within 10 days, $150,000 more was raised. So anyway, it all happened. And it began. 25 new sets of clothes had to be made for the small deities because they had made clothes for large deities but not for the small deities. So that all had to be done. Construction, so much construction. Then we decided we needed the Prashantha Pavilion, and that had to be done. So the actual construction involved a 2,000 square foot kitchen, the old kitchen converted to a Bajari room, the deity kitchen being built, all of that. Then the Prashantha Pavilion, and then we had to put in new wells, fire suppression systems, water retentions, building all, digging out these berms, everything else. We had to pave this road out here more, the parking lot, to be able to get the permit for the installation. All of this had to be done, and it was a great deal of work, and of course Mukhi was managing it all. Finally, the day came, and the installation was conducted by Gaurkeshava Prabhu, who eloquently explained the various elements of the rituals, in which he was assisted by many local and visiting pujaris. The devotees of New Ram and Radi would like to thank all those who worked so hard and for so long for this to happen. All glories to Sri Krishna Balaram. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. So thank you, Ranjit, for putting this together. And it was a wonderful effort, and the result was amazing. I thought that was one of the most, I'm not like, my service forte, so to speak, is not yagyas and deity worship. I don't know a lot about it, but I have never seen such an amazing installation as that Krishna Balaram installation. I remember the final ceremony. There were ceremonies for 3 days, right? And we put the jewels under the feet. Thank you, Brian Govinda. And so many things that we did. In that final installation, we had 5 fire sacrifices going, and they had the threads to the heart of the deities. Just incredible. And I remember, actually, Gauravani was leading an amazing kirtan. He was particularly empowered that day, you could tell. It was just, everything was amazing. And I don't know, I could, in my own very limited, very thick way, I could feel Lord Balaram was coming, Lord Krishna and Balaram were coming. They were accepting, yes, we are entering into these deities, and we are accepting your service. And that is the incredible spiritual vision that devotees gain through seva, through the worship of our deities, our incredible deities. They accept so nicely these decorations and clothing and prasadam. And even if we're not on the altar, but we are chanting in front of them, or even just viewing them, even just seeing the deities, that reciprocation develops and builds, so that eventually we actually, at times, it's like Krishna will lift the veil, and we will see this is not a marble or brass carving. This is Krishna. Krishna is here, and he is manifested in this form so that we can all see and appreciate him. Yeah. I was reading Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and one thing Sanatana Goswami was talking about, the vision that one gains of Krishna. And he's saying that when one has a vision of Krishna, Krishna has to work through our material senses and mind while it's a material world. So in our mind, we think that we're seeing things or experiencing things materially, but we're really not. It's all on the spiritual platform, and Krishna makes our mind think that it is, but it's actually totally the spiritual body, spiritual senses, spiritual vision that all devotional service goes on with. So it's like, sometimes I think that, we barely know and appreciate and understand what we're doing every day. Just, how amazing it is what's actually happening, in terms of, the level of, deep devotional service going on because of the mercy of Guru. Because Srila Prabhupada is a pure devotee and we are assisting him, then we are gaining a little bit of the fruit of that. So, anyway, it's very, very special that we have Krishna Balaram here as a whole community effort. It's really wonderful to celebrate the coming of Krishna Balaram. Krishna and Balaram, like all the deities, they come when they appear to, when they agree to appear. So Balaram finally agreed to appear, and by his arrangement and his mercy, they have come. So, how about some pastimes? Let's talk about Balaram. Because actually, I was looking at so many wonderful pastimes. I was thinking about whether I should write it down. I'm glad I didn't do the one about pulling Yamuna, since she read it this morning, so I got others. One thing, and this one's not one it's not like one you think about all that, immediately with Balaram, but I was thinking about the Battle of Kurukshetra, And what did, of course, Krishna he was a little bit neutral in a sense, that he said, you can either have my armies or you can have me, whatever you want, but I'm not going to fight. Of course, he had to break that at one point. Similarly, Balaram decided to be neutral. He, as we would say today, recused himself because of conflict of interest. His conflict of interest was that he was Duryodhana's, teacher of fighting with the club. So he was partial to Duryodhana, but he was also partial to the Pandavas, so what could he do? He didn't really want to fight and be on one side or the other. So he decided, you know what? It's a good time to take a spiritual pilgrimage. The entire worldwide battle war is about to take place. I think I'll go take a pilgrimage. And when he does, of course, he accomplishes many things at once. Because on that pilgrimage, one place he went was Naimisharanya. And at Naimisharanya, Romaharshan's sutta was about to address the assembled sages. Balaram comes in. Everyone recognized Balaram as Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they all rose and offered obeisances except Romaharshan's sutta. He's sitting on his Vyasa-san. He doesn't have to stand up. Romaharshan. Oh, I'm sorry, Romaharshan. Yeah, the Sutta's the son of Roma. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. So Romaharshan thinks he's above that. Well, big mistake. Balaram simply picked up a blade of kusha grass and dispatched Romaharshan. So, of course, then what happened, and the Brahmin said, well, we understand why you did that. Certainly he is an offender, but at the same time, we had given him the benediction of long life and everything. And so it was decided, well, you can confer that benediction to the son, Sutta. And thus Sutta Goswami becomes the speaker of the Bhagavatam at Naimisharanya. He also said, well, how can I atone for this? And I said, well, you continue your pilgrimage. And also there's this Balvala demon that's been bothering us. Could you take care of that Balvala demon? So he does that. So he takes care of the demon. He helps the sages. He gets rid of Romahan Susha. He puts Sutta in place. He stays neutral. When Krishna and Balaram perform their pastimes, they simultaneously fulfill many purposes and make everything perfect. So that's the nature of that. So I think Balaram's best known pastimes are probably in Vrindavan, when he and Krishna, of course, were playing in the pasturing grounds, and they had so many wonderful, playful pastimes with the cowherd boys and their games and their activities and taking care of the cows and the calves. They also killed a few demons along the way, such as Pralambasura. I'll read, what I'm reading is really just like the summary of the chapters. Krishna then suggested to his young friends and Baladev that they play a game involving contending parties. Taking the role of leaders, Krishna and Balaram divided the boys into two groups and determined that the losers would have to carry the winners on their shoulder. Thus, when Sridham and Rishabh, members of Balaram's party, were victorious, Krishna and another boy in his party carried them on their shoulders. Pralambasura thought that the unconquerable Lord Sri Krishna would be too great an opponent to contend with, so the demon fought with Balaram instead and was defeated. Taking Lord Balaram on his back, Pralambasura began to walk away very swiftly. And Balaram was wondering, what is happening? But Balaram became as heavy as Mount Sumeru, and the demon, unable to carry him, had revealed his true demoniac form. When Balaram saw this terrible form, he struck the demon a ferocious blow on the head with his fist. This blow shattered Pralambasura's head, just as a lightning bolts hurled by the king of the demigods shatter mountains. The demon repeatedly vomited blood and then fell upon the ground. When the cowherd boys saw Lord Balaram return, they joyfully embraced him and congratulated him as the demigods showered garlands of flowers from the heavens and glorified them. So you can see that both Krishna and Balaram are equally proficient and equally capable of killing demons. We have another one, Dhenukasura, the ass demon. Revealing their boyhood, begun the phase of pastimes, Ram and Krishna were one day bringing the cows to pastures when they entered an attractive forest decorated with a clear lake. There they began playing forest sports along with their friends. Pretending to tire, Lord Baladev laid his head upon the lap of a cowherd boy and rested as Lord Krishna helped relieve his elder brother's fatigue by massaging his feet. Then Krishna also placed his head on the lap of a cowherd boy to rest, and another cowherd boy massaged his feet. In this way, Krishna, Balaram, and their coward friends enjoyed various pastimes. As an aside, that reminded me, why did Balaram decide to come as his older brother? Because he didn't like being the younger brother as Lakshman, right? Not that he didn't like, but in other words, he didn't feel he was able to protect Lord Ramachandra properly because he had to obey his instructions, right? And so he said, well, next time I'm going to come as the older brother. Anyway, so during this play, Sridham, Subal, and Stoga Krishna and other coward boys described to Rama and Krishna a wicked and irrepressible demon named Dhenuka, who had assumed the form of a jackass and was living in a Talavan forest near Govardhan Hill. This forest was full of many varieties of sweet fruits, but fearing this demon, no one dared try to relish the taste of those fruits, and thus someone had to kill the demon and all his associates. Lord Ram and Lord Krishna, hearing of the situation, set off for this forest to fulfill the desires of their companions. Arriving at the Talavan, Lord Balaram shook many fruits out of the palm trees, and as soon as he did so, the jackass demon Dhenuka ran swiftly to attack him. But Balaram grabbed his hind legs with one hand, whirled him around, and threw him on top of a tree, thus slaying him. All of Dhenukasura's friends, overcome by fury, then rushed to attack. But Ram and Krishna took hold of them one by one, swung them around, and killed them, until the disturbance was finally finished. When Krishna and Balaram returned to the coward community, Yashoda and Rohini placed them on their respective laps. They kissed their faces, fed them with finely prepared foods, and then put them to bed. Okay. This one's kind of a little interesting. You don't think too much about Balaram during the Brahma Mohana Leela, right? When Lord Brahma was bewildered, when Krishna expanded himself, as all the calves and all the coward boys. But it's kind of interesting at the end. Because normally, Lord Balaram knows Krishna's heart and mind perfectly, right? It's like they're one. So sometimes, like when all the coward boys or the residents of Vrindavan, they'll be very frightened. But, Krishna, Balaram will kind of glance over and smile because he knows what's going on. You don't have to be worried about Kaliya demon, that everybody looks like that they're dead. You don't have to worry that, they all walked into the mouth of Agasura. Balaram's like, he knows what's happening. When Krishna's hand shakes a little bit when he's holding up Govardhan Hill, and people go, oh, what's wrong? Is he getting weakened? Balaram knows, no, he's looking at the gopis, and so he got a little bit distracted there in his holding of Govardhan Hill by the beauty of the gopis. Balaram knows all these things. But one time, Balaram actually got covered by Yogamaya. And that was during this pastime where for 1 year, Lord Brahma had stolen the calves and the coward boys and put them in a cave. So he thought he would play a trick on Krishna. So what did Krishna do? He expands himself as the cows, the calves, and the coward boys for that 1 year, which is only a moment for Brahma. He just thought it was away for a minute. But that's on his time. On earth, it was a whole year. So during that whole year, all of the mothers of the coward boys and all the mother cows thought their calves and their boys, their children, were special. Even just they loved them more than ever, because they were actually Krishna, who's the most lovable object of ever, who is the sweetest. So they experienced this for all this time. Now, Balaram, of course, he wasn't changed or anything, but he didn't really realize this at first. That Krishna had made this expansion. And it says Balaram is normally not subject to Yogamaya. In other words, Yogamaya is covering everybody and all these different pastimes are happening. Balaram doesn't affect him. But Krishna covered him with Yogamaya because he didn't want him to miss his friends or disturb him. He didn't want him to be disturbed because all his friends are gone and stolen by Brahma. So he said, I'll just cover him too. Now, of course, Balaram also experienced an increase in his affection for all of them. So in other words, he was experiencing that also, even more, his affection for the calves and for the other coward boys. But now the yoga energy was starting to lift for Balaram. He was the first one. He started to understand. He was like, wait a minute. The residents have an extraordinary affection for the boys and calves, which I've never seen before. And he says, and I have the same affection myself. So something's very different here. And finally he understood that there was some mystic power going on. The boys and calves were not what they appeared to be. And then he realized, oh, this is Krishna. This is Krishna's yoga maya potency. So Balaram, once again, and that's the only time that I've seen where Balaram got covered by a special arrangement by Krishna. Of course, Krishna can even have himself covered by yoga maya, can't he? Doesn't he have, sometimes he has Purnamasi even cover him, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to enjoy the pastime so much if he knew everything was going to go on. If you do it all and you orchestrate and you plan and you write the script and everything, then, it's like, you already know how it's going to happen again in the end. So he even voluntarily allows himself to be a little surprised by what's going to happen and to be able to enjoy the pastimes even more. So these are the incredible type of pastimes that go on in the spiritual world with Krishna and Balaram. Playing with the cows, playing with their friends, killing demons, all of these things. So, very special day today, of course. Once again, devotees should seek the blessings and mercy of Lord Balaram. It's a very, very good day to offer our prayers to Lord Balaram, to thank him for his mercy, and to ask him for his blessings and his mercy that we might advance in spiritual life in Krishna consciousness. So, end with a final quote. Srila Prabhupada from that same Bhagavatam 7th Canto purport. One cannot attain the goal of life without the mercy of Balaram. Sri Narottam Das Thakur therefore says, Nitya Nera Karuna Habe Vraji Radha Krishna Pabe. One who receives the mercy of Balaram or Nityananda, one can attain the lotus feet of Radha Krishna very easily. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Lord Balaram. Hare Krishna. Any final thoughts? Okay.
It's from Akilananda Prabhu.
Okay.
Was Balaram's granddaughter married to Duryodhana's son?
Say it again.
Balaram's granddaughter.
His granddaughter.
Married to Duryodhana's son. I don't remember anything like that.
Well, if you don't remember it, I sure am not going to remember. His I don't recall. Is there anything further? Or?
No. Another question.
Oh, so all I remember is that, of course, Rohini is his mother, and his wife is Revati, right? At least one of them.
Yes.
What children did he have? Do we know what children Balaram had?
Balaram had no children.
No children, because I couldn't remember any. Okay.
Nityananda Prabhu. Next.
Yeah, okay, Nityananda, yeah, okay. Yeah, Nityananda had a whole line. Yeah, they continuing up to this day, aren't they?
8 of them, 6 of them died.
Ah.
Only Mother Kanchis and Virabhadra.
Virabhadra, yeah. Okay.
Who is stronger, Balaram or Krishna? This is it.
Who is stronger, Balaram or Krishna? Probably whichever one Krishna wants to be stronger. Sometimes Krishna would, well, of course, Balaram is the source of all strength, but he also gets that from Krishna. So I think we'd have to say probably Krishna is the reservoir, the topmost in all qualities, but Balaram is the same.
This is a question from Madhavananda Prabhu. The scripture says that Balaram is not different from Krishna except for his bodily view.
Yeah.
But it seems like their personalities are, of course, different and unique. Can you explore further what is meant in the scriptures?
Yeah, I was thinking, I thought there was something on that when I was reading that part. Yeah, they're different in appearance primarily. In other words, as a Swanksa expansion, he has the full potency of Krishna. In other words, he's non-different in that he can do anything Krishna can do. In other words, he has the full power of Krishna. If Balaram, Krishna can really, do the same things, that unlimited strength that's there. But they do have still, this is the amazing thing about understanding spiritual life, still they're different. just like, so in other words, everything is coming from Krishna, but yet we don't say everything is all just one. Yes, everything is Krishna, everything is from Krishna, but yet there's infinite variety in his energies. And that's part of the pleasure potency of Krishna. He enjoys through his variegated energies, just like Radharani is coming directly from Krishna, but completely different. It's, Hladini Shakti, completely different energy. And therefore, there's loving exchanges. So in the same way, he does exhibit some unique personality. Like, for instance, we see Balaram can be very humorous, right? Nityananda was very humorous often. And Balaram and Lord Nityananda tend to be a little bit more eccentric, you could say. Sort of from the social sense, like, doesn't Balaram like to drink honey and Varuni and things like that? And he's more than, Nityananda, definitely more of an Avaduta, didn't care anything about social norms, constraints, did all kinds of things, with his coward boyfriends, like that. So yeah, there's a little different personalities that are involved, but yet they're the same and they have the same potency, the same power.
How many gopis does Balaram have? Wow, what a question.
I know he has his own set of gopis.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But there's no number, no I mentioned.
Anyone know?
Unlimited.
Yeah, is there any limit? I mean, we know, like, in other words, Krishna has how many? I mean, we know he has like 16,108 queens in this material world, in this particular manifestation. In the spiritual world,
but in Chaitanya Charitamrita it says Satakoti Gopi Sange Rasa Vilas. Satakoti means 100 and Koti means 10 million. So 100 times 10 million.
So it's like millions, billion. In other words, unlimited. Yeah. Unlimited. Yeah. What's the translation there? Sahasra, the thousands. Sahasra means thousands. Hundreds of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. Yeah. Yeah.
One question from...
This is like stump the speakers today.
From Ohio.
From Ohio?
Yeah.
Oh.
Please explain what is the relationship between Subhadra and Balaram and Krishna.
Well, Subhadra is considered a sister, of course. Subhadra is also Yogamaya. And she also expands as, of course, Yogamaya expands as Mahamaya. So sometimes Subhadra is explained more in terms of being like Mahamaya, but she's really more like Yogamaya. So, she's internal energy, internal potency of Krishna, Yogamaya. I don't know, say much more than that.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, and of course, they're brother and sister, of course, in terms of their appearance, in that they were, all coming from Vasudeva and Devaki, right? I mean, after, of course, she was, she was born from Vasudeva and Devaki, and of course, she immediately, when she comes to try to kill her, she flies up in the air, and she actually manifests her form, I think, more of Mahamaya, wasn't it? That she manifests to Kamsa, because that's who he got coming at, who's going to come after him. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. What can you explain again? Why did Balaram didn't take part in the battlefield of Kurukshetra?
He didn't take part because he was partial to both sides, particularly because Duryodhana was his student of the club. And since he was the main antagonist against the Pandavas, it's like he didn't really want to take sides and have to fight against Duryodhana. At least that was, and then he had many other purposes that are served, but that was the... This is kind of getting to be like, how many angels can you put on the head of a pen,
Okay, that's good.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Glory to Srila Prabhupada. Glory to Lord Balaram.